Hey, what's up, friends? This is Ben Dailey, lead pastor, Calvary Church, Irving, Texas. And I can't believe it. I've been asked to share my aha moment. To be honest with you, I feel like I'm having an aha moment right now to think that I've been asked to talk on this Leadership Network webinar with men and women that I have admired in ministry for so long. Personal heroes of mine, people like Rick Bazette and Pete Briscoe and Charles Jenkins and Carlos Whitaker, on and on and on the list goes. My aha moment came after years of struggling with the temptation to compare and conform, to compare my ministry with others and feeling pressured to conform my ministry to the expectations of others. And both comparing and conforming were dangerous traps that absolutely distracted me from serving, from doing what God had called me to do, and it kept me from being who God designed me to be. Understand that when I started in ministry when I was 19 years old, I never felt successful enough. I judged myself by my achievements, and I measured my worth in terms of productivity and accomplishment. I strived for unattainable goals, never reaching them, and therefore I never ever felt fulfilled. I'd always say things like, I must, I gotta do this, I ought to, I should. I wasn't led, I wasn't spirit-led, I was driven. I was never satisfied. I felt guilty if I'd relax for a little bit. And that ultimately affected my home. I was project-minded rather than being process-minded. And if you know anything about ministry, you know it's all about process. And for years, I tried to squeeze into a ministry model that just wasn't mine. And you know what happened? I became absolutely frustrated. I thought I was losing my mind, and at one point, I absolutely wanted out of the ministry. But thank God for aha moments. I had an aha moment. And it came when I finally realized, are you ready for this? That I could be who God had made me to be. That Ben Dailey could be Ben Dailey. And this aha moment came out of Galatians 6, verse number 4, which absolutely delivered me with a liberating concept. Are you ready for this? Paul writes, do your own work well. Do your own work well, and then you will have something to be proud of. He goes on to say, don't compare yourself with others. Do your own work well. Finally, I had the freedom to do my own work, to do what God called me to do, to be who God had specifically and deliberately designed me to be. So my unconventional methods all of a sudden were no longer an obstacle that I had to avoid, but rather it was a liberating benefit. I could be who God called me to be in ministry. And I realized that there are basically two reasons why I should never compare or conform. First, I'll always be able to find someone who seems to be doing a better job than me, and I'll become discouraged. Second, I'll always be able to find someone who doesn't seem to be as effective as me, and I'll become prideful. I'll either become discouraged or I'll either become prideful when I compare and conform. Either attitude will absolutely distract me from what God has called me to do, and it'll keep me out of service, really serving the people that God has called me to. Paul said it is foolish to compare ourselves with others. Listen to what he said in 2 Corinthians. He said, we do not dare classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves when they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves. He says they are not wise. They're foolish. It's dumb to compare, is what Paul said. You'll always find people who don't understand you or your style of ministry, and they'll criticize you and they'll try to get you to conform to what they think you should be doing. That happens. And I've got a word for you today. You need to ignore it. One of the reasons Paul was used so greatly by God was that he refused to be distracted by criticism or by comparing his ministry with others, or by being drawn into fruitless debates about his ministry. And that was really an aha moment for me when I realized I could be me. And I close with this thought by John Bunyan. He said, if my life is fruitless, it doesn't matter who praises me. And if my life is fruitful, it doesn't matter who criticizes me. Y'all keep being who God made you to be.